sessions of all these 3 days from today onwards. So as major part of this STC was to cover HFSS tool. So these 3 days we'll be having demonstration of HFSS tool. So Mr. Akash will be there to answer your queries as well. So, but we'll be going in the same fashion. So first we'll have session demonstration from Engineer Akash to cover the topics which we have mentioned in our schedule. Then at the end of the session, you can share your queries like we are sharing on first day and 2 days. So you can post your queries through chat, and we'll be taking up those queries. So before I hand over session to Engineer Akash, so let me introduce Mr. Akash to all of you. So Engineer Akash is presently working as application engineer with ARK Info Solutions Private Limited. So he has a 4 years of experience in the areas of antennas, RF circuit design, microwave engineering. So basically, Mr. Akash is a true microwave and RF engineer. So he has done his BTech in ECE at Vidya Vihar Institute of Technology, Purnia Vihar, and then ME in ECE with specialization in microwave engineering at BITS Misra Ranchi. In addition to his experience at ARK Info Solutions Private Limited, he has also worked on passive RF components such as filters and directional couplers, VNA, signal generator, and anechoic chamber. And he is also ANSYS certified HFSS professional. So with this brief introduction, I invite Engineer Akash to take over today's session. So welcome, Akash, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Have you made Mr. Akash presenter?
Yes, sir, I have made him presenter.
Okay, sir.
So thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. So in the 3 days that we'll be covering today, we'll be dealing with the different topics of HFSS and some of the techniques that we can use to model our design and optimize our design. So before starting the session, I'll just give a brief. Most of you might be familiar with HFSS. You might be working on different versions of HFSS. However, just to bring everyone on the same platform, I'll give a small introduction to the capabilities of HFSS. So I hope you're able to view the screen. So right now.
Yes, we are able to see.
So you are able to. Okay. Just a minute. So are you able to view the PowerPoint, right?
Yes.
Fine. So this is the different areas in which HFSS is utilized. So on the left hand side, you can see the communication between a Bluetooth antenna that is kept in the mobile phone, a Bluetooth antenna that is kept in the wireless headset, in the smartwatch, and as well as the laptop. So these all are interacting with each other. You can see the current density in progress. In the lower left hand side, you can see a TWTA. Then you can see an array that is designed out here. Right hand side, you can see a T out here. And on the top, you can see one example of ADAS, Advanced Driver Assistance System. In all these cases, the antennas have been designed and we are studying the properties of antenna as well as how they are interacting with each other. So this is just a tip of the iceberg. Coming to that, we will see how HFSS can do much more. So let's take an example. Let's suppose we are designing a complete system out here, an RF system. So in that case, if you see on the top of it, if you can see on the top of it, so the entire system has been designed and whatever excitation that needs to be provided. That means if you need to provide a push excitation, whatever kind, an op-amp or any kind of circuit has to be added. So that can be added in HFSS circuit designer, and this will give you the complete picture. So this is the eye diagram in this case that you are seeing out here. Second thing, if we are talking about RF and signal integrity. So if you have got a PCB design that is made, and if you are making different VRs so that you are connecting different power planes, in such a case, the VRs are causing some amount of radiation. So to study the accurate picture of the entire PCB, how the different traces are made and how the different components are behaving, not only radiation, but if the components have got any kind of power drop or any kind of temperature is rising, so that can also be studied. Third thing is the electromechanical physical design. So this forms an important part of the electronics desktop package. It means that if you're designing any structure, so that structure will have got certain amount of thermal issues in it. So below is shown an example of a motor or an actuator. Let's suppose you've designed a motor that is running for n number of hours. So designing a software in Maxwell, that is a counterpart of HFSS for lower frequencies, will give you the complete characteristics of the motor, the torque, speed, and all those things. And later on, that design can be transferred. The results of the design of motor can be transferred to ANSYS Mechanical, which will calculate the amount of heat that is being produced. So once the amount of heat that is being produced because of the current that is flowing in the coil, it will give you the temperature. Once the temperature has been calculated, again ANSYS Mechanical will calculate what is the deformation because of the temperature. If a metal is there and the heat is flowing across it, so it will either it will expand. It has got a positive temperature coefficient. So because of that expansion, the coils will deform. So it will calculate a deformation, and finally the deformed result will be sent back to ANSYS Maxwell, which will calculate because of the deformation what are the new characteristics of the motor. So this will give you the complete picture, and you can design effective cooling solutions. In cooling solutions, if we are coming to cooling solutions only, let's say we have got power electronic devices or PCBs or other things. So ANSYS Electronics Desktop has got a separate package called as IcePack. In IcePack, it has got some component, let's say heat sinks are there, fans are there. So all those different models are there, various models, and these can be customized. So suppose if you are designing a PCB out there and different components are placed, so if the power supply is high, so certain amount or certain parts of the PCBs are going to get much heated up. So because of that heat, there will be degradation of performance. Now what we can do is, first of all, we can go to IcePack and analyze at what place the temperature is rising. Then with the help of, let's say, passive cooling, we can put certain heat sinks at those places where the temperature is high. So it will help to reduce the temperature that is rising. And if we want to further cool down the system, we can place fans as strategic positions so that the airflow is maintained and the temperature further comes down. So this ice pack works on the principle of is a part of Fluent Solver, which is designed for electronics engineer who have fluidity in electronics package, but are going to work in the fluid domain also. So this is also a part of it. So this is one of the example. IIT Madras had designed a CubeSat out there. The maximum weight of CubeSat is 100 kilograms only. So the size is also specified and the weight is also specified. So it's such a small place you have to place an antenna, design an antenna and check its various characteristics. Since HFSS has got a robust solver and quite accurate results. So this was designed using HFSS results. Coming to HFSS, why it is such a great tool? It works on the principle of finite element method. If you've got a structure out there, the structure will be divided into smaller number of cells, and on those cells, the value of electric field or the magnetic field will be calculated on different edges and points, and based on those calculations, the results are finally summed up to give you the complete picture. Also, HFSS over the years has evolved, so it now includes FEM, and along FEM there are other solvers also, integral equation solver, asymptotic solvers, and hybrid methods, so that you can choose the optimized solver for your case. So these are some of the capabilities of HFSS that are there: visual ray tracing, wireless propagation models. So this is the way of designing any structure out there. We take a structure, make the calculations on pen and paper, make the accurate design, and once the design has been made on pen and paper, Then the design is transferred into HFSS, geometry is created, we assign the correct solver, correct materials, correct boundary conditions, and finally check the results. These are the solvers that we are talking about. So usually most of us go for only frequency domain solver. So that is finite element method based. If you are going for a time domain solver also, that is equally accurate. So this is finite element time domain. This is FE, finite element frequency domain. This is finite element time domain solver. The third is integral equation method of movements. So if you have got quite a large structure which is totally metallic in nature, and if you are placing an antenna on the top of it, so to see the behavior of the antenna when it is placed on the top of that structure, we can go for integral equation method of movement solver. And let's say if you have got multiple structures over a large area, one tower, two towers, multiple towers are placed over a large area, distributed area in, let's say, uh, 1 kilometer or 500 meters. In that case, the antenna is solved in HFSS, and those results are brought from HFSS and they are put into the PO solver, physical optics solver, HFSS itself, and the results are calculated. So this is one of the examples of hybrid techniques. Calculating results of FEM antenna and then taking those results and seeing how those antennas are going to behave in a very big space. The reason for doing this is if you're taking an antenna, suppose 1 cross 1 cross 1 centimeter cube, and if let's say if you're solving using FEM technique, so suppose 1 centimeter cube is there and there are 100 elements created for that. So 100 elements, let's say, are taking 100 seconds to solve, or let's say 100 minutes to solve. So that is fine. But if you're placing that antenna on the top of a tower and that tower is analyzed over an area of suppose 1 kilometer, now if that 1 kilometer has to be divided into smaller number of elements, the number of elements will be quite high, and the solution time is also going to rise. It will take, let's say, many, not even hours. It will take few days to few months to solve it. So what happens in such a case is the antenna is solved in HFSS itself, and the results are brought, and then those results are extrapolated with the help of physical optics solver to give the results in less amount of time. Then there is finite element boundary integral technique. So most of you might be using the radiation boundary. So this is also one technique you can utilize. And finally is planar EM, 2.5D method of movements. So this, if you've got a pseudo 3D structure, let's say a patch antenna, in which case the ground plane, let's say, is infinite. It's usually not infinite. So in such a cases, so instead of going for FEM, we can go for 2.5D method of movements. So this is a technique of solving anything. We put the boundaries and excitations, we give the geometry out there, we choose a machine, and then material is there. So once all those things have been assigned, we can get the proper results. So these are some of the companies we use HFSS. So these are some of the broad but not restricted areas in which HFSS is utilized. The first is the wireless antenna, wireless, where you will see the antenna have been placed, RF and microwave. Wireless, you are talking about Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, smart products like, we'll see the example later on. RF and microwave, radar cross section of any structure. Let's say this chopper is there or this plane is there. The radar cross section can be calculated. Signal and power integrity. With the advent of electronics and more focus on making India program, so whatever PCBs, let's say, are being designed in India, so though they will have microcontrollers. Before releasing those PCBs in the market, so those PCBs underneath to go EMI EMC verification. First thing. Second thing, even before that, first of all, we have to see if that PCB is working fine or not. So designing a PCB is fine, but analyzing a PCB, whether all the components are going to work properly in the given condition, what is the amount of temperature that will rise. So those things can be analyzed in SI wave. That is a part of ANSYS electronics desktop. And next part is, once those things have been analyzed, checking if that PCB is causing any amount of radiation, either conducted or radiated. So that thing can be analyzed with the help of SI wave and HFSS. And finally, coming to biomedical, if you're, let's say, placing an MRI scanning, RF ablation, specific absorption rate, in all those cases, you can visualize the property of antenna radiation in HFSS. So this is a part of ANSYS SAVAN, as we are talking about the PO solver, physical optics solver. So the antenna is solved in HFSS, but the behavior of the antenna in a large complex environment. here you can see a FASTag environment. The FASTag is placed on the top of this or in the windshield of this truck out there, and the antenna is placed here as the truck is passing through. So we have to see how the FASTag's antenna is behaving with the antenna of the receiver out here. So those things, for that we require ANSYS SAVAN. Or another example you can take here is, let's say, unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV is there, on which multiple antennas are placed. So solving this antenna in HFSS itself might give you, let's say, results, but it will take quite a lot of time. So what we do is solve the antenna in HFSS, then link it with SAVAN, and SAVAN will extrapolate the values to give you the proper result in a quite big environment. Another example is a ship out here, or a parabolic dish reflector out here. So this is the example of another company which is actually using HFSS to innovate their products. So this is the wearables and watches, smart watches, ultrasonic toothbrush. This is another instrument and connected stadium. In all those places, the antenna modeling has been carried out using HFSS. This is the example of EMI EMC. So whatever electronic components are being manufactured in the cars or any other vehicles, so those electronic components underneath to go EMI EMC requirement. The reason for that is, suppose your ignition is electronically is totally electronic. Now, if your mobile phone's is causing some kind of interference with your ignition, in that case, what will happen? If you're going at a high speed, or let's say if you're in highway, if you're moving at quite a high speed, and suddenly your phone rings, and because of the radiation from the phone, what is happening is your ignition suddenly turns off. Your car suddenly turns off. In that case, it is quite a dangerous situation. So whatever electronic devices we are manufacturing, those should be electromagnetically compatible. That means, first of all, it should not cause unwanted radiation. That means the ignition from the car should not cause any unwanted radiation. And second thing, it should not be influenced by any external radiation. So the electronic compatibility covers two things: should not cause radiation and should not be affected by radiation. So ANSYS, the newest version 2020 R1 has got different templates out here for electromagnetic interference and compatibility testing. The CISPR standards can be tested out here. Next thing is those who are working on antennas, especially array antennas. So designing an array antenna is, what we can do is we can take a structure, design the antenna, and then make multiple copies of it. So making multiple copies, we can go for copy and pasting. So that is one way of doing it. Second way of doing it, using advanced conditions such as master slave boundary condition, as well as floated codes. So with the help of that, HFSS itself will create multiple copies, and those copies are going to be solved. So this is also an advanced feature of HFSS. This is an example of specific absorption rate. In this case, an antenna is supposed placed at near the head, and we can see the amount of heat that is being produced. And this is the value of SAR. So this is the 2G band out here that you can see. So in India, the rate is 1.6 watt per kg, but you are getting here 1.0535, 0.61. That means these all are compliant for that case. So HFSS has got a human phantom model, which can be on which your antenna can be placed, and you can get the correct result, whatever will be obtained in the lab. This is an example of HPC. If the system is, if your problem is quite complex, the number of cells are going to be quite high. In that case, take the structure, divide it into smaller number of systems, and each system is going to solve parallelly one of the components, and later on the results will be assembled. An example is this plane is there. So this plane is divided into 4 domains. The first domain is the cockpit, the other domain is the fuselage, then left side and the right wings out here. So what is happening out here is each one is solving a particular domain, and finally the results are being assembled. These are some of the examples that we can see in HFSS. For example, you can see a magic tree that is shown out here. This is an example of a diode, simple diode. And whatever structure is there, if you want to go for any kind of bending or corrugation or other things, everything can be performed in HFSS. All is required, the mathematical knowledge to perform those things. The reason is, we'll come to that. If you are able to define a geometry in terms of mathematical expressions or equation, you can define any structure in HFSS. So you can also check the polarization. This is an example of a patch antenna. The fields can be visualized. This is an example of a rectangular waveguide. This is a T20 mode. So in HFSS, what has to be done is, first of all, solve the equations, calculate the values of the different A and B, length and width out here, then provide the excitation. So here we can calculate the attenuation and the different factors which come into picture for designing of a waveguide. Another example of magic tree itself. This is a coaxial microstrip transition. So once the structure has been designed, let's say any filter or antenna on a planar surface, now that needs to be given an input with the help of a connector. So the moment a 3D connector that you can see out here, coax connector, is connected to a 2D structure out here, there will be some amount of, first of all, some amount of reflections will take place because of the mismatch. And because of that, losses will occur. So let's say if you're designing an antenna, let's say for minus 15 dB, and the moment you're putting a connector out there, as a thumb rule, you can imagine your performance to come down to minus 10 dB because of mismatch. The antenna's performance is not going to degrade. That is there. The antenna's directivity and everything remains same. But if you're calculating the overall gain out here, so that is going to decrease. So if you're supplying, suppose 10 watts of power out here, suppose it is also only going to receive, let's say 8 watts of power. Out of 10, only 8 watts of power. So that 2 watts of power is being reflected back, or some amount of losses are taking place. So before releasing a product, or let's say actually going for a connect testing out there, what one can do is one can put the coaxial component out here, check its performance in the software itself, get the results, optimize it. Optimization means, let's say, increase the length of this or increase the width of it, see whatever is proper, and then finally go for fabrication and measurement. So this was the example of meshing that we talked about earlier. So HFSS, what it does, it initially divides the structure into smaller number of geometries, and it keeps on dividing until the results are converging. Once the results are converged, it gives us the final value. So here you can see the results are finally converged. And if you've got a 2D structure, it will be a triangle. If it's a 3D structure, in that case, it will be a tetrahedron. So first thing is the meshes are conformal and non-uniform. What is the meaning of conformal and non-uniform? That means if the structure is, whatever the structure is, pertaining to that structure, the mesh will be created. And the meaning of non-uniform is at the places where the field values are quite high, in those places, to get accurate picture of the field values, the number of elements will be increased. Means the mesh will be made dense. And in the places where the field values are quite low, in those places, the mesh will be non-dense. So here you can see at these are made of copper. So in these places, the field values are probably high. So HFSS has made quite a dense mesh in these pictures. But around the edges or places where the field values are low, the mesh density is low. Also talking about order. So in HFSS, there is something called as order of basis function. So briefly speaking, if we number order of basis function, you can see the difference out here. But again, checking the value of these basis functions requires a previous knowledge of computational electromagnetics. So we can go for zeroth order, first order, second order, or mixed order of solution. Let's suppose we are going for zeroth order of solution. In that case, the component will be, the field values will be calculated only from the edges. Sorry, from the nodes. Suppose one node, two nodes, three nodes, four nodes out here. Let's say if you are going for first order, in that case, nodes plus edges. The same way, if you're going for first order, second order, then nodes, edges, plus the values from the center also. So in such a case, if only the values are taken from the nodes itself, so you require 100 elements to gather the complete information. Now let's take a second case. In second case, if the values are calculated or if the values are taken from nodes as well as the edges, in that case, let's say only 70 elements are required to form the entire picture. The same way, if usually increase the number of order of basis function, more and more information is attained from lesser number of elements. So this is the example for a particular case that has been taken. So for zeroth order, the number of elements that created were 249,000. And first order 28,000, second order 20,000, mixed order 17,000 itself. And you can see the amount of time taken. Zeroth order 21 minutes, mixed order 1.3 minutes. So basis function best refinement takes place, and HFSS versus HFSS IE. If this structure is completely metallic, in that case, integral equation solver can be utilized. However, if there is a dielectric also out there, in that case, finite element method can be applied. Integral equation solution would be most efficient when the geometry is primarily metal. Let's say complete metallic structure of the plane or a mobile tower which is made of total metal. In those cases, we can go for I geometry. Another example is why it is important to go for hybrid solvers. So here you can see a parabolic reflector is there, and on the top antenna is placed. So when we design any antenna out there, what we do is we surround it by a box and assign it a radiation bound. The entire thing has been surrounded by a box, which is not a rectangular box, but a normal structure has been surrounded and assigned a radiation bound. And because of that, the size that has been is of the entire structure is 22,463 lambda. In second case, what has been done is this lower structure, the reflector, only the reflector has been assigned an I region because it is metal, and the antenna, it is just put in a box, and that box is assigned as KB. What you can see out here is in between the air that you see, or not the air, in between the empty space that you see out here, nothing has been assigned to this. So this entire space is being saved out. This entire space, nothing is assigned. In the previous case, you can see this entire thing is made of air, but here nothing has been assigned. So this entire volume we are saving. So instead of 22,000, we are coming down to 199 lambda cube. So the size is saved, and because of size, RAM issues, and also the time is also less. So this is a design flow. We make a geometry, materials, boundaries, and excitations, and then solve it. In HFSS 3D layout, so if we have got a pseudo 3D structure, a planar structure, let's say PCB or any other thing, so designing of those things can be done out here. A planar antenna, a planar filter, so those things can be made out here. The design flow is same, and there is something called as Q3D extractor. So if you have got a transmission line or any other structure, the Q3D extractor, it's 3D out here, so similar is 2D, 3D and 2D extractor. So depending upon the structure, if it's 3D or 2D, will help one to extract the RLGC parameters. These are the results you can view in post-processing. Once the results have been done, so these are the results that you see: Poynting vector, the magnitude of electric field and magnetic field. So these are some of the results that have been solved in HFSS. This is ANSYS SI wave, as we talked about earlier. So the PCB has been designed, but the analysis of that PCB, crosstalk is there, what is the amount of heat that is being produced, what are the different interferences between the components of the PCB itself. So if I am supplying a power of 1 watt, is that power equally distributed? At which places the power drop or the voltage drop takes place? So all those things can be analyzed in ANSYS SI wave, signal integrity wave. And there is ANSYS Red Hawk. So this basically deals with the chip level. So this is at chip level. Means the PCB is there on PCB board level. Sorry, not chip level. This is board level. This PCB is there. We are placing different chips out there. We have got the equivalent circuit of the chip out there, so we can analyze the entire PCB. But if we want to scale down further, so in that case, we come to chip level design and ANSYS Red Hawk. So this is fine. Then, so I'll start with the different feeding techniques. So let's start with this different feeding techniques of the antenna. So Let me make a rough model out here, and then we can visualize the structure. We can go for parametric design. So let me make a new project out here and share my screen first of all. So this is the screen that you can see right now, the HFSS window. So we will be talking about the parametric design, and first of all, why it is important in different cases. So we are going to design a patch antenna, which will be instead fed patch antenna, and then we can go for other kinds of feeding. So let me share the design with you. So, so this is the design that we are going to try out today. So this is a copper out here at the top, and this is the feed line which is connected at the inset place, and this is the width and length. So these things have been pre-calculated for a value of 10 gigahertz. Substrate is not FR4, but rather RT Durite 5880. Permittivity is 2.2, and this is at 10 gigahertz. So is this design visible to everyone?
Yes, sir, visible.
Okay, thank you. So this design we are going to try it out today. So the important thing is when we are going to make this design, we are not going to choose any of the length or the width out here initially. The length and the width will keep it as it is. So it's 2.93, 0.97. So these calculations have to be made beforehand, let's say from the handbook or any other book that you prefer. So once these design have been made, so we get the basic idea. We have got a ground plane. On the top there is a substrate, and on the top there is a patch and the feed line. So first of all, we will change the units to centimeter. So go to modular, units, CM. You can see the units have been changed. First thing is drawing a ground plane. To draw rectangle or first click and second click. No dragging required in such a case. Change the name to ground. The first thing is done. Second thing. Now this is important. We are going to make it parametric. Let's say, let's rotate it so that it will. Fine. So this is the structure. This is the X and Y. So let's suppose along the X is the length, along the Y is the width. So let's say the length is along x is the length. So the length is, let's say, L underscore substrate. So let's keep it anything as, let's say, 10 centimeter for a moment. Let y equal to substrate, W underscore substrate. So let this be is also equal to 10 centimeter. Now the length and width is 10 centimeter. Second thing that we have to adjust is its position. The design, it has to be symmetric. So what we will do is, let's say we will start at -5 -5. So what I will do here is, right now the position is -1.4 -1. So that is in the second -1.4 and -1. X and Y are -1.4 and -1. So that is in the third quadrant. First quadrant is plus plus, minus plus, minus minus, plus minus. So it has started from here. So what we will do is, we will make it symmetric. So we will start it, let's say, from this end out here. So since this is 10 centimeter, 10 centimeter, let's start it from -5 and -5. This you can see here, this is -5 comma -5 comma 0, and from here the x size that has been taken here is +10, and the y size is also +10. So instead of -5, what I will do is, since x we are talking about the length of the substrate. So if let's take an example. If the total size is 10, let's say in x the total size is 10. So this point will be +5 and this point will be -5. Only talking about the x coordinate. And suppose this entire is 12. So this will be +6, this will be -6, because this is 0 0. So this is +5 and +6. So what we are doing is simply putting the coordinate values out here. So the coordinate of this point on the lower left hand side will be minus minus. So minus L substrate by 2. This is minus W underscore substrate by 2. Okay. So this ground has been made. Next step is drawing the substrate. So substrate will be a box. Hence draw box. Let's say we make a click anywhere. One click, two click, and third click. So the box has been drawn. First thing is assigning the material. The box has been made up of Rogers RT Duroid. So first change the name. So I'll type here Rogers. So the relative permittivity was 2.2. So this I'm going to use Rogers RT Duroid 5880 2.2. Click on OK, and let me increase the transparency of this. So this box has been drawn. The material has been assigned. Next step is again doing the same thing. We are assuming the length and the width of the box. That is the cross section area of the box. Looking from the top will be the same as that of the ground. What we will do is we'll put the same values out here. L underscore substrate, W underscore substrate. Let's say height is equal to H. So H value was 31 mil. 1 mil is equal to 1/1000 of an inch. Click on OK, and these values will keep the same. Minus L underscore substrate, minus W underscore substrate, and since we are starting at half of each, so by 2 by 2. Now substrate is lying exactly here. Fine. The third step is drawing the patch on the top. So let me increase the transparency of the ground so that the axis is clearly visible. Third step is the patch. For patch, another rectangle has to be drawn. So I chose it from here. So this is a patch. The first thing is change the name and increase the transparency so that you can see. Next step is assigning its length and width. So let's say the length of the patch is LP and along X. So length of the patch is L underscore patch. So let's keep it as let's say 6 centimeters for now. Let the width of the patch be W. Let's keep it again as 6 centimeter. Okay. So the patch has been drawn, but right now the patch is going out. The reason for that is, if we look closely, so X is minus, Y is plus. So this comes in which coordinate? Sorry, which quadrant? Minus plus in the second quadrant. So that means it started from here. The first click was made here. HFSS takes the first click out here. Now from here, what is the X size? X size is positive. So here, if you are going to the positive X direction, so this is 6 centimeters, and the Y size is also positive. So here again, we are moving in the positive Y direction. So what we will do from here is change these values. So let's say we will start from this point out here and go in the positive Y and positive X. So this here everything will be minus and minus, and if the entire length is L, so this point will be minus L by 2. This will be plus L by 2. So this has been made. So third thing is this patch that you see right now out here is still on the ground plane. It's not on the top of the substrate. The reason is that the substrate has a height of h. The substrate has a height h out here. And if you can see the pink highlight is near the ground. So what we will do is we will shift the patch up. We have made the proper position in x and y, but the patch is lying right now at z equal to 0. But the patch should lie on the top of the substrate, that is at a distance of h centimeters or h from the ground plane. So instead of 0, this is the coordinates, we'll change it to h. So this is the position from which place the patch is going to lie. Click on OK. So you can see the patch has come on the top. The third step has been done. The fourth step is creating the inset and the feed line. So for creating the inset, what we are going to do is make a rectangle out here. Let's suppose this is a rectangle. So we'll change the name to inset. Transparency doesn't matter because it will go away. Still, I'm going to change for the moment. This is the inset. Now let's suppose this is along the x is the length of the inset, and this side will be W. So we'll come to that in a moment. And next will be the feed line. So feed line will be drawn here. This is the feed line. Now let's change the name of this also. This is the feed. This is the feed line out here. Now what we'll do here is we will take this value as length of the inset. Let's talk about the inset first. I have drawn the feed line for the reference. So the length of the inset will be, let's say, Li. So it's along X, so I'll keep it as L underscore inset. And the second one I'll keep as the length of inset, let's say 2.5 centimeter itself. Okay, and the width of the inset, let's keep it W underscore inset. So let's keep it 2 centimeter. One thing, please take it down whenever we are trying to design those things. So just as a guideline, try to keep the value of the variables as positive itself. So if you have to define a negative variable, so what we will do in such a case, we will keep x is equal to, let's say, 2 centimeters or 10 centimeters. And if you have to define a negative value, we will use there as minus x. So that will prevent a lot of confusion. Instead of taking x equal to minus 10 centimeter, let's take x equal to 10 centimeter and define any value as minus x. Okay. Now, what will be required is, let's suppose we are choosing this point. I'll draw a point out here so that it's clear. Let's suppose we are drawing at this point, from this point. Right from here. Actually, this is a circle, but for our purpose, it will serve as a point at this point. So we have to find the coordinate of this point. From here, a inset has to be drawn. So let's talk about the x position of this. So this is 0, 0, fine. Now, what is the coordinate of this point? So if I have to reach to this point, suppose this was 5 and this was 2. So this would have been 5, comma 2. So how do we say it's 5, comma 2? We move a distance of 5 units in the x direction and 2 units in the y direction. Or let's say 6 units in the x direction and 2 units. So 6, comma 2. Same way, now that was in terms of values. In terms of variables, so from here to here, the distance is LP by 2, length of patch by 2. This is 0 and this is length of patch by 2. So what we will do here is put the x as LP by 2. So I'll open this here in the side, and the x position I'll put it as L underscore P, length of patch by 2. Okay. Now from here, uh, from the origin, I have come to this. Now from here, if I need to move up, by what distance should I move up? So let's suppose this total distance is not specified. The total width of the inset is Wi. So from here to here, it will be width of inset by 2, and here will be minus Wi by 2. So Wi by 2 and minus Wi by 2. So what I will put here is W underscore inset by 2. And since it is lying on the top of the substrate that is at a distance h, so this will be equal to h. Fine. So the first click has been made here, but still the inset is coming out. So what we need to say is, if I'm starting from here, in which direction do I need to move? Do I need to move in the positive x and positive y, or positive x, negative y? So I'm starting from here. I need to move first of all in the negative x, so that the inset is made this way. And then I need to move in negative y, so that it comes down. Negative x and negative y. Because if I'm starting from here, and if I say the length is equal to 5 centimeter in x, I'll go this way. If I say the length is 6 centimeter in y, I'll go this way. Hence, starting from here, I'll say the length is equal to minus 5 centimeter. So I'll go this way. And the length is minus 2 centimeter in y. So I'll go this way. So what I will do is, x size also will become minus, and y size also becomes minus. And the patch has been adjusted. And the last thing that remains is the microstrip feed line. So for this, what we are going to do is select the feed, and let's suppose the length of the feed from here to here. Let me draw it here. The length of the feed from the pink color line that you see out here, consider is just an arrow. So from here to here, the length of the feed, let's say it is equal to LF, because the total length has to be defined. So for total length, from this point to this point has already been defined as Li. So whatever is left, we will define it as Lf. So the total length will be equal to Lf plus Li. This is Li, and this complete length will be Lf. So first of all, for that also we need to choose a point. Let's suppose we are choosing another point. So let me delete this circle, and suppose we choose any point. Suppose we choose from here. From here we have to draw a feed. Let's suppose we have to draw a feed from here. Fine. So what we will do is, we will first of all select this. We have to find the coordinates of this point. So in this case, this coordinate will be x is positive but y is negative. So first of all, let's change the name of it. The name is already changed to feed. Correct. Now we'll open this. Let's suppose the width of the feed is w underscore f double ed, and let's keep it as 1 centimeter itself. 1 centimeter. Okay. And the length of the feed will be equal to L underscore feed, which we have to define, and length inset. The total length. Total length is equal to this portion plus this portion. So let's keep it as, let's say, 2 centimeters. That is fine. Let's click on, and third thing, let's click on OK. So fine, it is at a different distance and everything has changed. Now we will adjust everything one by one. First thing is we are choosing this point. So at this point, the x value will be positive and the y value will be negative. So the x value, let's choose it. So what will the x value? So from here till this end, the length is LP by 2. From this coordinate, if I start moving, if I come here, so it's LP by 2. Then if I subtract length of inset, I will come back here. If I move a distance of 6 out here and subtract 4, I come back here. So what I will make here is L underscore patch by 2 minus L underscore inset. I click on apply. So in X, it's already brought here. Now we have to change Y. So Y, I need to move down. By what distance? The total is equal to width of the feed. So top will be WF by 2. The lower side will be minus WF by 2. So I'll make it as minus W feed by 2. And third thing is it's lying on the patch at a distance of h over the ground plane. So I'll make it as h. Okay. So this has been adjusted. So right now you can see here is we started from here, and starting from here the distance should be positive here and the distance should be positive here also. So the distance both x and y are positive, so this is fine. So I'll delete the extra parts out here. This rectangle deleted. This circle was extra as a point, deleted. And the final thing that has to be made is the port. So the port will be created something like this, connecting the top to the bottom. So for that, we have to make a rectangle, and the rectangle has to be made in the YZ plane. So up till now, whatever we made, that was in the XY plane. On the top, you can see, but now we have to make it in the YZ plane. So for that, first we change it from here, make it as YZ. Now make a rectangle. The first click, suppose I make it here, I leave the cursor, and second click, I do not drag it. The second click, I make it here. The rectangle has been made. But since we are making it parametric, we are also going to put the values in terms of parameters. First thing is we change the name So the name will become as port. Okay. Second thing is we are going to find the coordinates of this point or any point we can find, not an issue. Out of 4 points, anything can be chosen. So let's choose this point on the top. So the coordinates of this point will be, let's say again, this point out here. So I'm zooming out. So this is 0, 0 and everything. So from here, if I have to come to this point, so what will your distance? So the total distance is equal to L substrate, the total distance from this end to this end. So from here to here it will be L substrate by 2. So what I will do is I will change this value position, or let's first of all change the this itself, the size itself. The width of the port is equal to the width of the feed line, the width of the port. So the width of the port is along Y and the height of the port is along Z. So let's change these two first. So height will be equal to H and the width will be equal to W underscore feed. So these two have been changed. Okay. Now we have to adjust the values. So from here, let's suppose we are choosing this point. What will be the coordinates of this point out here? The coordinates of this point out here we have to find out. So first, in X, the total distance will be equal to length of substrate by 2. So that will change L underscore substrate by 2. This is done. Okay. And second thing is, this is the, what about Y? So we are talking about this point out here. Fine. So Y will be from here, if you are moving a distance of the width of the feed by 2. So the total is W width of feed. The top is WF by 2. The lower point is minus WF by 2. So that also we are going to change here. And it's lying at a distance H. This is done. Now, second question comes, we have come to this point. From this point, we need to move in the positive Y and make sure there is nothing X out here because this is a laminar structure. When we are making a plane in XY plane, in that case, the Z size is equal to 0. Same way, here we are only dealing with Y size and Z size because this is in the YZ plane. So from here, if you are starting, we are going in the, if you can see here, positive Y. From here, positive Y. And from here, if you are starting, we are not going in positive Z, we should go in negative Z. It should go down in the negative Z direction. So what we'll do is, we'll change the value. Y is already positive. Z will make it as negative, minus H. Okay. So you can see we have come down. These things have been done. The last step will be performing the Boolean operation. So we'll select this and select the insect and go to modeler, Boolean, subtract and click on OK. So you can see this is subtracted. The next step will be select this hatch already out here and select the feed by pressing the control button and click on modeler Boolean unite. This has been united. So once this has been done, what we do is we assign the boundaries. So we select whose the patch is here, right click, assign boundary perfect key, click on OK. And same thing we do the ground, right click, assign boundary, go for perfect key, click on OK. So we have got two conductors out here that we can visualize, perfect key 1, perfect key 2. Next step will be we are going for driven terminal analysis, not a model solution, since we are not interested in analyzing the different modes out here. So we will go to HFSS solution type, change it to terminal and click on OK. Once this is done, we will select the port that you can see out here. Right click, assign one more thing. I'll remove the circle out here. This is not required. Port, right click, assign excitation. Go for lump port. We have got only two conductors, and for reference, we are choosing a ground and click on OK. So this has been done. So right now we did the variation with complete. Everything was random. Random in the sense we did not take any values, 10 centimeters or 5 centimeters. Now what is the advantage of this? Let's see out here. Let's suppose we have to change the value of patch according to the figure out here. So the figure, I hope it is visible, everyone. So what I will do is I'll just minimize the figure out here. So the substrate is width is 2.3 centimeter and the length is 2.93. So first I'll change the length. Substrate length is 2.93. So you can see what will happen. The length of it 2.93. It has reduced. No issues out here. The width is 2.3 centimeters. It has reduced. Let's come to the next structure. The patch. Length is 0.97. Fine. No issues out here. And then the width of the patch is 2.3 centimeters. This is done. The next step is inset length is 0.295 centimeter. So we change that. And width of the insert. So what is the total width? 0.243 plus 0.05 and 0.05. So 3.343. So width of the inset is, you can see it here. If I change it, 0.343. Just changed. Now width of the feed has to be changed. So width of the feed is 0.243. Fine. And length of the feed. The length of the feed from here to here, let's say it's here 0.243. So let's try it out. Fine. So the length of the feed has changed out here. So what we need to do is we need to increase the length of the feed. So the length of the feed, what we will keep here is, let's see what we keep it out here. So from here to here, it's completely L substrate by 2. From here to here is equal to LP. So this should be length of feed should be equal to length of substrate by 2 minus length of patch by 2. Length of substrate by 2 minus length of patch by 2. So it's adjusted out here. One thing that is not adjusted is the width of the patch. So width of the patch is, let's see what is the width of the patch, 1.19 centimeter. 1.19 centimeter. And the design is made out here. So everything was done in terms of parameters. It becomes easy to modify the design. The next step is putting a boundary. So we select draw region. So it's going to analyze for 10 gigahertz. So we make it as absolute offset, and it should be at a distance of lambda by 4. So for 10 gigahertz, lambda is equal to 3 centimeters. 3 by 4 equal to 0.75. So let's keep it slightly more than that. I'll keep it at 1 centimeter and click on OK. And you can see the box has been created. Now this box is made up of vacuum. I can change the material out here. I can make it as air. Okay. And next step is assigning it a boundary condition. So I'll select the box, right click, assign boundary, radiation, and click on OK. So this is done out here. Now the next step will be moving for setup. So right click on analysis here and add solution setup. I add it. It's for 10 gigahertz. I'll make it as 10. Number of passes, let's make it 20. And here you can see the option of basis function that we discussed earlier. I'll make it as let's say mixed order, and number of converged passes, it is important. Like how many passes it's going to converge. So it is going to check it only once. But if I make it 2, it will re-verify it. If it is converged, it will check, it will again subdivide it in smaller number of parts and check whether the results are actually decreasing or not. I'll make it as, I'll show it clearly when the table comes up and click on OK. System. Now I'll add a setup, already added, add a frequency sweep from, it's 10 gigahertz, so let me add it from 9.1 to 10.9. Number of points, I'll reduce it to 201. And I'll keep it as interpolating for the moment because it's slightly more accurate than fast, actually more accurate than fast, but it will take slightly more time. Click on OK. And next step is result, simulation, validate. So everything is correct. You can see. Now right click and analyze. Right click and analyze. So with this, we will be taking a short break and we'll let it run for some time. I'll click on analyze. It will ask me to save it. The name is, let's say, patch. Patch parametric new. Save. So it will start running now. The analysis is going to start. And you can see it out here, which it hangs for a few seconds, let's say for 5 seconds. Fine, show progress. Right, this is done. So with this, we'll let it run for some time. Okay. So is that fine? Will you take a short break or something, sir?
Yes, Tashi, we can take break now.
Okay, sir.
So before that, if you would like, we can take up some of the queries which have been posted by the
Right.
participants, or you would
Right,
like
sir.
to take at the end of second session or combined, as you like.
Okay.
So how will you like, whether want to take now queries of this session or queries at the end of second session for both the.
Okay. So fine. So we can take the queries.
Okay. So let me then read some of the queries. So there is one participant who is asking how magnetic bias is applied to ferrite substrate. I think this topic we have not covered yet, so it is maybe out of the context.
Okay.
So if you want to like the answer. Then
Yeah, sure. I can answer that. Can you repeat the question, please, sir?
the question is how magnetic bias is applied to ferrite substrate.
How magnetic bias is applied to magnetic substrate. So in that case, what I suggested initially, the magnetic bias you can try it for application in Maxwell, not in HFSS. HFSS can deal with it, but Maxwell is a lower frequency that is made for magnetic materials. So what can be done is you can apply the magnetic bias in Maxwell software itself, and from there you can import the result or link the results into HFSS.
Okay. Thank you. The next question is what is the need for insert in patch exact reason?
Pardon, insert?
Insert in patch. So this is what is written. What is need for insert in patch? Is there any option like that?
I have not seen insert in patch. Where is this option found? Model, draw, where? Any idea?
No, so that has not been specified by the participant. Maybe this question was from participant Pon Bharti A. So can you elaborate your question, please? So you can write again this question. So we can, in the meantime, we can take other questions.
Right, sir.
So next question is, did we always have to assign lumped port when wave port is preferred?
So fine, right, sir. So lump port is assigned if we have got two conductors, first thing, and second thing is we have got an open structure. Like in this case, you can see this is a structure that can resemble a basic transmission line. But if you have got a closed structure, let's say a waveguide kind of structure, T or waveguide or any kind of closed structure, circular, rectangular, any kind of structure, in that case, we cannot use lump port. We prefer to go for wave port itself.
Okay, thank you, sir. And the next question is, which ANSYS version you are using?
Right now, for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm using ANSYS 2019 R1, but the latest is 2020 R2.
Okay. Then next is how to draw leaf structure in HFSS.
So how to draw leaf structure? So two ways of doing this are, first thing is for leaf structure, if the leaf can be defined in terms of equation, if you're able to define leaf in terms of equation, you can input the values in HFSS, not in HFSS, in draw equation based surface, or let's say equation based curve itself. Draw equation based curve and option comes there. In that you can input the equation. Otherwise, you can use the option of polylines. Polylines means you have got multiple a straight section out there. You can click on make multiple points out there and join them in the form of a leaf. Once you're starting at, let's suppose, point A, going to point B, C, and then finally coming back to A. So A, B, C, A will form a closed loop, and that will be defined as a surface. So same way you can define a leaf or whatever structure is required.
Okay. So yeah, thank you, sir. And the next is the feed line in YZ plane must cover all three length patch, all three lengths, patch, substrate, and ground plane, or it covers only patch and substrate.
The feed that are you talking about the port or feed?
The question is like this: the feed line in YZ plane must cover all three, or it cover only patch and substrate.
The feed line, first of all, is not in YZ. The feed line is in XY. The port is in YZ. So the port needs to touch two conductors. So it is touching the first conductor as the feed line or the patch, and the second it is touching as the ground.
Okay. Then there is one query related to simulations. What are system requirements of laptop for proper working of HFSS simulator with parametric variation? I got error as out of memory many times.
So usually the lowest configuration HFSS can run in 4 GB. That is fine. But for optimum performance, we recommend going for an 8 GB or a higher RAM and going for a higher end processor. And second thing is, if you are using a graphics card, there are a list of graphics cards which are specified by ANSYS on their site for different versions which are tested for both AMD and NVIDIA. So those graphics card can be used for accelerating the parallel processing. But for normal case, we go for 8 GB RAM and a newer version of OS. Sorry, not OS, processor.
Okay. Okay, sir. That question has been reposted, which we were talking earlier.
Right.
In feed line, we are drawing the insert. May I need the reason for it? May I know the reason for it? Maybe. In feed line, we are drawing the insert. So this question has been reposted related to that insert term.
Insert, but where did we use insert? I'm not sure.
Okay. Participant is talking about feed line. In feed line, we are drawing the insert.
Inset. Achha, that is inset. That is inset.
Inset. Okay. So participant has written insert.
Right. I got it, sir. So that is the inset. Okay. So the question is, in feed line, we are drawing the inset.
Okay.
So what we are doing out here is the patch is there. So in the patch, we have to find the point wherever the impedance is close to 50 ohms. It's not exactly 50 ohms. We can choose any impedance. And the feed line that we saw earlier has been designed for 50 ohms. So right now in this figure, we cannot directly connect the patch and the feed line together. So what we do is we cut a small hollow out here, and the hollow we cut it at a place where the impedance is 50 ohms, and at that place we connect the feed line. Hence the inset has to be made.
Yes. Then the next question is how to identify the position of placements in X, Y, Z looking at patch feed. Are there any approach to follow? How to
Okay,
identify
if you're
positions of placements? Yeah.
Okay, if we are talking about parametric, what we do is we try to make it symmetric. So first of all, we do not go for HFSS at all. What we do is we take a pen and paper and design the geometry in itself. And geometry is designed, let's say, in terms of X and Y. So what we do is we take a coordinate system, let's say X, X dash, Y dash, 2D coordinate system. In that, we draw a rectangle, we draw a square, and try to find out the coordinates point in the pen and paper itself. Once those things have been done, then they are taken into HFSS. So let's suppose we have to draw a circle. So circle we have to draw at origin. So what I will do is I will draw a grid on pen and paper and draw a circle. So circle center I will mark as 0, 0, 0, and the radius I will mark it as r. Now the same structure I will take in HFSS, draw it there, and in the position I'll put it as 0, 0, 0, and the radius I'll put it as r, and define it a value, let's say 5 or 6 centimeter.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. There are some of the questions which are related to the topics which we will be covering in the coming session. So I am skipping those questions for now. So I request the participants to wait for tomorrow's sessions. Most of the queries will get cleared, but mainly the queries related to this session I am picking up. So again, there is question to access. One of the participant is written. That is it necessary to start at the center?
No, it is not at all necessary to start at the center. But what we are doing is we are trying to make it symmetric. It's not necessary, we are trying to make it symmetric. Because in later cases, if we try to make any structure in HFSS, if it is symmetric, so there are some advanced boundary conditions called a symmetry boundary. So they can be applied. So they can be applied only if the structure is symmetric with respect to, let's say, XZ plane or the YZ plane.
Okay, thank you, sir. There is another question. What should be the ideal distance between radiation box and substrate edge?
The ideal distance should be equal to, if we are talking about radiation boundary that we chose right now, so that should be equal to lambda by 4 or more. Lambda by 4 or more. And pardon?
It depends on the wavelength means for which
it depends on the right. So if the antenna is at 2 gigahertz, so 2 gigahertz is like, let's say 15 centimeters. So 15 by 4 we keep it there. So we keep it lambda by 4 or more.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, there is one question related to CPW field. I think we are taking the CPW field in upcoming sessions, so can skip.
Okay, sir. But can you read out the question, please?
So, how to give excitation in HFSS for coplanar waveguide feed? Because in CPW feed, the patch and ground are in same plane.
Right. So in such a case, what we do, we go for wave port. We design a wave port, and the wave port is made large enough so that it covers both the planes as well as the center conductor that is passing out here. I'll share the PDF later with sir, which has the guidelines of giving the port sizes, the wave port sizes for different cases.
Yeah. So I have shared one PDF yesterday over Google Classroom. So participants can refer to that. But some of the participants are saying that it is not opening up. So I will share the drive link also for that. I will share that link today.
Okay.
So I think we can stop at this point. And the rest of the questions we may take up at the end of the second session. So, right, participants,